These are the most underrated characters in Breaking Bad. Everyone knows Walter White and Jesse Pinkman, but without these forgotten names, the show wouldn't be the same. Mike Ehrmantraut. Mike didn't talk much, but every move he made mattered. First showing up as Saul's fixer, he quickly became the man who kept Gus Fring's empire running. He handled problems, protected people, and cleaned up messes like a pro. Most people think of him as just the tough guy, but Mike had his own code. He tried to stop trouble before it grew, kept innocent people out of danger, and stayed calm no matter what. When Jesse was falling apart, Mike gave him jobs and structure, pulling him back from the edge. In season 5, Walt kills Mike by the river. Mike doesn't waste words. He just says, "Shut the hell up and let me die in peace."
Waited.
Shut the fuck up. Let me die in peace.
That line shows who he was: simple, direct, and always in control. Mike made Walt stronger, but doesn't get nearly the credit he deserves. But while Mike stood for control and order, another character showed the side of pure innocence and how fast it can be crushed. Gale Boetticher Gale was one of the nicest and smartest guys in the show. He loved chemistry, coffee, and poetry. To him, meth wasn't about power or money. It was just a puzzle to solve. He admired Walt and wanted to learn from him, calling him a genius. But that admiration is what got him killed. Gus saw Gale as the perfect replacement for Walt, and that made him dangerous. So, in the end of season 3, Jesse had to shoot Gale. That moment changed everything. Jesse lost his innocence, and Walt showed just how ruthless he could be. People forget Gale quickly, but his death was one of the biggest turning points in Breaking Bad. Without it, Jesse and Walt wouldn't have sunk so deep into darkness. And while Gale's story was full of sadness, another underrated character brought humor into the chaos: Huel Babineau. Most fans remember Huel lying on top of Walt's mountain of money, smiling like crazy. But Huel was more than a joke. He was Saul Goodman's right-hand man, helping with intimidation, carrying money, and keeping things moving. What makes Huel underrated is that he actually survived. While almost everyone else in the show ended up dead, Huel walked away. Fans even joke that he's still waiting in the safe house. That alone shows how much impact he had. He wasn't flashy or smart like Gus, but he added a unique flavor to the show. In a world full of tragedy, Huel gave us a moment of absurd humor that fans still talk about today. And speaking of loyalty, there was one character who gave everything for his partner and paid the price: Stephen "Gomi" Gomez. Stephen Gomez, or Gomi, was Hank's loyal DEA partner. From the start, he was there working cases, checking leads, and backing Hank even when things got risky. He wasn't loud, but he was reliable. The sad thing is that most people forget Gomi when they think about Hank's big final moment in the desert. Hank's last stand is iconic, but Gomi died right there with him. He didn't cry, he didn't beg, he just stood his ground. He also spotted clues Hank sometimes missed, showing he was sharper than people think. Gomi balanced Hank's personality and made their team stronger. His death might have been overshadowed, but it mattered just as much. And while Gomi stood for loyalty, another underrated character showed how dangerous love could be: Jane Margolis. Jane is often remembered as Jesse's girlfriend who died, but her role was way bigger. She gave Jesse hope, love, freedom, and a way out. For a short time, Jesse felt safe with her, but Jane was fighting her own problems. She relapsed, dragged Jesse back into drugs, and together they spiraled down. The most shocking part? Walt stood in the room and watched her overdose, doing nothing. That moment showed how far Walt had fallen. Jane's death broke Jesse completely. He carried the guilt for seasons, and Walt later used it to control him. She wasn't just a side character, she was proof of what Jesse could have had and how far Walt was willing to go. Her story was short, but the impact lasted until the very end of the show. Hector Salamanca. Hector Salamanca barely speaks a word in Breaking Bad, but his presence is unforgettable. Stuck in a wheelchair, only able to communicate with a bell, Hector still manages to terrify everyone around him. What makes him underrated is how much impact he has with so little screen time. We learn through flashbacks that he was once a brutal cartel boss, feared by everyone. Even when paralyzed, he never lost that cruel streak. His glares, his smirk, and the sound of that bell were enough to make enemies freeze. The highlight of Hector's role comes in season 4, when he finally takes revenge on Gus Fring. In one of the most shocking moments of the series, Hector lures Gus into his room and detonates the bomb attached to his wheelchair. That single act brought down the most powerful drug lord in the show. Hector proves that you don't need many lines to be iconic. With nothing but a bell, he became one of the most memorable and underrated figures in Breaking Bad. Mike, Gale, Huel, Gomi, Jane, and Hector Salamanca. They weren't the main stars, but they shaped Breaking Bad in huge ways. They gave us professionalism, innocence, humor, loyalty, and tragedy. Breaking Bad is famous for Walter White and Jesse Pinkman, but the real magic of the show is how even the side characters had depth and meaning. So now I want to know, which underrated character do you think deserves more credit? Drop your answer in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for the next deep dive into Breaking Bad.